this little device that you can see here right now on my wrist is able to repair, restore, and regenerate your body to a younger, healthier state. So let's start off here. We're going to have a couple testimonials, and this is my business partner, Dr. Stacy. And when she started on these patches 4 years ago, this is what she looked like. She was 47 years old, and she was a little bit overweight, but other than that, she was in good health. She's always been into all things that are organic, holistic, and into health and well-being. She's been doing parasite cleanses and detoxes and gallbladder cleanses since she was 18. And so she wasn't looking to repair anything that was wrong. She didn't have any aches or pains. She was just a little overweight, but other than that, that was about it. And so she started on the patches. And as you compare and contrast what she looked like then, one of the big changes that she started to do in that first year is that she started to have enough energy and stamina where she started working out really persistently and consistently. And she noticed that she didn't have any muscle soreness as she would do her workouts. And over the 4 years, this picture that's pictured here to the right, this is last fall, almost a year ago, where she had this particular picture taken, but you can clearly see that she has reversed aged. Some of the area around the eyes, which showed a little bit more of her age, you can clearly see that the collagen levels have been increased, and she looks much younger. But not only does she look much younger and sound much younger, but her biological age, when we do blood tests and check her biomarkers, actually shows that she is now 25 years old biologically, even though chronologically she's 51 years old. So that's kind of a big difference. So in contrast, her best friend of over 20 years, April Stewart Vaughn, a little bit older than her, April was very, very sick when she started on the patches 4 years ago. And April had been diagnosed with Lyme, with lupus, with autoimmune disorder, with rheumatoid arthritis, and she also had a very, very bad case of long haulers COVID. She kept on getting COVID over and over again because her autoimmune system was in really bad shape. And she was on quite a few medications, and her rheumatoid arthritis was so bad that her hands had big knots and very inflamed joints, and she was in terrible pain and wasn't really getting any better, even though she was on all these different pain meds. I think she was on 13 pain meds or 13 different medications. And as you could see, she looked like a 54, 55, maybe even older woman, and she was a very unhealthy person that was in her mid-50s. In contrast, now you see April. This picture was actually taken when we were on a Greek cruise where we went to Italy, Greece, and Croatia. And we went to the captain's ball. And so right before we went into dinner, this picture was taken. You can clearly see the difference in the texture of her skin. All of her wrinkles are gone. She's not one to wear very much makeup. She's more of a like eyeshadow, eyeliner, and a touch of lipstick type of a gal. And her skin, you can see her wrinkles are gone, the increased collagen, which is natural to her original state from when she was like 30 years old. It has restored it herself. And the thing is that in the first 3 to 4 months that she was on the patches, pretty much all of her symptoms from all those conditions that I mentioned a minute ago, all of them were gone. And she was able to get off of all those terrible pain meds. And now, fast forward, again, it's 4 years later. This picture is actually at the 3-year mark. And this August, it'll be 4 years since this whole process started for her. So you can see her here, and you can also see her on the right, a picture of her and I. That's when we were at the London Power Forum last September 2024. So let's do our little disclaimer because we got to cross our T's and dot our I's. Our patches are made in FDA registered facilities, so we need to play nice, cross our T's, and dot our I's. So the patches are not intended to treat, prevent, or cure any disease. We do not heal, cure, treat, or diagnose, nor do we offer any protocols. The suggestions don't replace the recommendations by your doctor. And so this is intended for human use only, okay? In case you didn't know this, but this is not a couple things. First of all, the words treat, cure, heal, and diagnose and protocols are offered, but they're basically owned legally by the pharmaceutical industries because only Over-the-counter and prescription medicines can treat, heal, cure, diagnose, or have protocols associated with them. And this is not medicine. These are devices. This is an FDA compliant, FDA cleared class 1 medical device. It has no stimulants, no drugs, no chemicals. It's not medicine. It's a device that turns on your previously dormant stem cells. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. Does that make sense? All right, moving on. The other thing to know is that the FDA, that wonderful little organization, the Food and Drug Administration, took a new position. They inspect our facilities every other year. So last inspection, they took the position that all claims surrounding stem cells and healing, even those from natural products like this, will be regarded as a drug claim. Again, we don't have any drugs in our these are devices, but that being said, they also asserted that claiming that the use of light to elevate peptides such as GHKCU, which is exactly what our device does, is inappropriate for a general wellness product. Even though, as a result of this finding, we can't say that any longer, although we have 90 clinical studies that show that precisely. And on top of that, we have over 120 global patents that we've had to jump through the hoops of 82 governments so that those would have global patents. All that being said, they get to make the rules. We get to follow them. So smile, the patches found you. So let's talk about how this is all possible. Well, over 50 years ago, in 1973, Dr. Lauren Picard discovered that GHKCU copper peptide activates 1/3 of your previously dormant stem cells, turning genes to a younger, healthier state. And so since then, there's over 2,000 scientific studies done throughout the entire world that have duplicated that exact same study. So that brings us to the question of what are stem cells? And I like to say that stem cells are master smart cells. And if you were to describe, if you look at the scientific literature, stem cells are described as pluripotent cells. And some people have told me, well, thanks for nothing, Lillian, because I don't know what pluripotent means. I'll break it down for you. So pluripotent means pluri comes from the Latin word plural, pluralis, and that means many as opposed to singular. Potent comes from the word potentials. So that simply means that each and every one of your stem cells are pluripotent, has many potentials. So any one of your 23,688 genes and stem cells that come from those genes have the ability to create your body in its entirety. So that when your mother's ovum unites with your father's sperm at conception, because you have that complete information, now each and every one of your stem cells, 100% of them, can create anything that you need in the body. Could be a heart, could be a brain cell, could be a neuron, could be an eye cell, skin cell, stomach cell. It has everything, as you can see here, evidenced by this little diagram. So the thing to know is, oh, by the way, by the time you're just 25 young years of age, already you have these things called fibroblasts that start to decline in their production of collagen. And collagen is actually the #1 building block protein of the body, not just for your face, because we tend to think of collagen as in for your face and maybe for your nails and hair, but it's the #1 building block protein for the entire body, every organ system, inside and outside of the body. And when you're just 30 years old, believe it or not, 50% of your original stem cells, they turn off when you're just 30 years old. So now you only have 50% of the original construction crew that built you prior to birth at conception. By the time you're 30, 50% of them have gone into retirement. And for every decade of life that you remain alive, 10% more for every decade goes to sleep, so that by the time you're just 60 years old, 90% of them turn off. Now, it's good. One thing to note is that when you have 50% that turns off, or 90% of them have turned off by the time you're 60, they're in retirement basically, they're not damaged. They're not destroyed. They haven't disappeared. They've simply gone into retirement. They're just lying there in wait They're dormant until you apply one of these activation patches, which is the on switch for you. Pretty cool, huh? And so you want to look at your human body, and your human body is just like your temporary housing unit, like your house in which you're in right now. And when you look at inside the human body and you're taking a look at your stem cells, which again, we like to call them your master smart cells, those are behaving very much like your printer ink cartridges that you have in your copy machine at home. And when you make copies and you have 100% of your ink, like 100% of your stem cells, that copy of the original is indistinguishable from the original that you have made a copy of, right? You can't tell them apart. But when you've used up 70, 80, 90% of the ink in that ink cartridge, and now you make a copy of the original, now there's a big difference between the original, which is nice and crisp, as opposed to the copy, which is very faded, right? So now that brings us to how. How do the patches work? How? That's the big question. How do they work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you look at the human body, we actually have about 56 trillion with a T, not billion. We have about 56 trillion cells in the body. And every one of the cells in our body have electrons. And in the blood and the cerebral spinal fluid, the liquids in our body, they have electrolytes. Electrons and electrolytes both are packets of electricity that run throughout the body all the time, 24/7. From the moment of conception, there's literally a big bang when your mother's ovum and your father's sperm come together. There's actually an explosion of light and energy, and that's where life begins. So we start off as light bodies, and we're always light bodies throughout our lifetime. And if we were to take, in this particular case, this photograph is done with a spectrograph, and it actually measures the electricity and the joules of energy that are in your body. And as you look at this, you'll see not only the electricity inside the hands, but you'll see that the electricity also goes outside of the boundaries of your skin. You can't see it with the naked eye, but the spectrograph will actually pick that up. Okay, and the joules or the energy units are measured in joules of energy. In my home office, I actually have a machine called a BioWell where I can measure. I can put both of your hands in, and we can measure the joules of energy from each one of your fingers on all the organ systems of your body. Pretty powerful thing. So the way the patches work is that you take, if you look at this patch, it's about 3 centimeters, which is about the size of a quarter. And in the middle, you'll notice that there's a white, appears to be like a white dot, right? And that's actually a grouping, a crystal lattice. And that crystal lattice are organic crystals. They're hydrogen, or let's start off with, they're sugar, they're salt crystals, they're organic hydrogen, oxygen, water crystals, and a proprietary blend of organic amino acids. And each one of those crystals are programmed with frequencies. And in addition to being programmed with frequencies, then each one of those crystals, each patch that we have, and we have a suite of 11 different types of patches. And so each one of those 11 patches have a different frequency and a different pattern signaling different things inside the human body. So if you look at a diamond crystal, and let's say that I were to shine a flashlight on a diamond ring, you would immediately see that the colors of, first of all, the light would bounce off of the crystal, the diamond crystal. The diamond crystal is going to behave like a mirror, reflecting back to my eyes all the different colors from the light spectrum from that flashlight, the flashlight being the source of light. Well, when you are wearing the patches, you're the battery that operates this device. It's your infrared and near infrared light that's on the inside of the body that now will bounce off of this crystal lattice. It's going to bounce back up to 4 inches deep inside the human body. And then instantly, that's the on switch to turning on 33% of your previously dormant stem cells, which is why some people, 8 out of 10 people that we apply patches on, 8 out of 10 will feel either cool or they'll feel heat that emanates from the inside. Some people feel, a tingling sensation. Some people feel waves of energy going up and down their spine, a low vibrational hum, goosebumps, all sorts of different, some people describe it as electricity. Sometimes you feel in different parts of the body. It's really fascinating. Some people, like I said, 2 out of 10 don't feel anything at all. We got somebody else coming in, just so that you know. Let me see what their name is, just so that you know, Eva. So we've got Joyce that just joined us. Okay. So 2 out of 10 people don't feel anything. I myself and Dr. Stacy too, we didn't feel anything when we first had the patches put on ourselves. And I used to, at the very beginning, I thought, well, maybe it's only the people who are totally healthy that feel something, or maybe it's just the young, or maybe it's just the old. I've come to find out that that's not necessarily true. I've had people who've had 30, 40, 50 broken bones. I've had people that are 2 weeks away from death with multiple organ failure, people with metastasized cancer down to the bones, given days to live. And some of them feel something immediately and others do not. So 8 out of 10 feel something, 2 out of 10 don't. Those are just the numbers. And what I've noticed, that's pretty accurate. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the process of the light bouncing off of this device up to 4 inches deep in your body. That's called photobiomodulation in science. Photobiomodulation, kind of a gigantic word for most people, but all that means is photo means light, bio, because we're biological beings. Photobiomodulation means movement and change. So it's a form of phototherapy. So I cut out of one of our research papers, I cut this out so that you could hear this verbatim, and it says, while phototherapy has been defined as the use of ultraviolet light for its healing effects, the LifeWave patches have been specifically developed to reflect light in the infrared and visible light bands back onto the skin where the patch has been placed. Supported by normal electrodermal skin conductance, the human body gives off a number of materials biochemically, including particulate release. All that means is it's tiny little particles, gas emission, ultraviolet, infrared, near infrared, and visible spectrum light. This then stimulates that area of the skin where the patch has been placed, producing improved physiological effects. Variations on phototherapy have been used for at least 100 years. And in that time, there's been little evidence of any negative side effects. So this suggests that this is a relatively untapped option for healing with relatively few risks. So I went on to look up and discover that my research showed that the first documented use of photobiomodulation was not in 1995, but in 1895. So I want you to think about that because we are in 2025. So this is well over 125 years ago that Niels Reiber Finsen actually won 8 years after the first documented use of photobiomodulation. Niels Reiber Finsen actually won a Nobel Prize for his research in using red light therapy to treat tuberculosis of the skin. And in his experiments with mice, Finsen found that exposing them to red light both eliminated and reduced the symptoms of lupus vulgaris, as well as the mortality rate of those rats. And the thing to note is that Niels Reiber Finsen himself was extremely motivated to find a cure for tuberculosis and lupus vulgaris because he himself was suffering with lupus vulgaris when he won the Nobel Prize. Now, I want you guys to just take a quick second, and I want you to do a mental inventory and think about all the people that you've heard over the last 10 to 15 years who've mentioned that they have lupus. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have heard that. And I remember when I was in college on Thanksgiving Day, my senior year, when I was a pre-med student, undergraduate, I remember that one of my best friends that I grew up with, her mother died of lupus. And we're still told to this day that there's no cure for lupus. But as you can see, this Nobel Prize was won in 1903. Something to think about. Moving on. So I want you to notice that these patches are made in FDA registered facilities. I want you to notice also that they're non-transdermal. Are you listening? Yeah. They're non-transdermal, they're non-invasive, they're organic, holistic, FDA compliant, class 1 medical devices. Again, they're not medicine. There are no chemicals. There's no stimulants. They're a class 1 medical device under the general wellness category, and they are manufactured in FDA registered facilities in the United States. And our facility in Ireland is actually registered with the Irish Medicine Board, which is one of the highest authorities available. And we're ISO 9001 and 13485 compliant in the European Union and in the UK. And as we speak, we are in the process of getting our ISO compliance certification for the United States. Very exciting, wouldn't you agree? Okay. Next, so let me share with you, this is a research paper, and I just cut it out of the research paper so that you could see with your own two eyes that these have been confirmed. They were studied by outside agencies to ascertain that there was no passage of any substance from the patch into the body. And it was further validated by the UCLA labs and the USADA for the Olympic Board, which is why Olympic athletes are able to wear our patches during the Olympics. And if you watched the Olympics last summer, many of you noticed that many of the athletes who won gold, silver, and bronze medals were wearing our patches. It's really exciting. We also have NFL players and professional tennis players, et cetera, that have also. And you're going to see here in this next picture, you can see pictures of all sorts of different athletes. And again, nothing transfers into the body. There's no medicine. There's no stimulants. There's no side effects. We're turning more, this is the on switch to a younger version of you based on your stem cells from conception. And so more of you is actually turned on. It's like an optimized version of you that repairs, restores, and regenerates you inside and out, top to bottom, left to right, front to back. Okay, does that make sense? So in this next paper, I just wanted to show you here that this is showing that these are registered homeopathic patches. And this is the name of the paper done by Connor M. Eichhoff J. Okay, so let's move on. It's super important. Can't tell you how critically important it is to be aware, because athletes and people who are into health and nutrition and health and wellness, we know that you're supposed to drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water from the time you get up until you go to sleep. But the rest of the population, not so much. Although in California, it seems like people are more health conscious, so we seem to be on the ball when it comes to that. Super important that you drink your 50% your weight in ounces of water, because a lot of people are completely unaware of the fact that your DNA are actually energy amplifiers. And most people are unaware that your DNA is made up of 92% water. That's right, 92% water and only 8% is other matter, which is why that explains why your DNA is such a great conductor of electricity and energy, right? Now, let me show you here in this next slide, because most people have not seen a DNA slide of what your DNA looks like when it's properly hydrated and when it's not. So the guy on the left, you can see that the helix structure, the DNA lattice has the appropriate helix structure. It's standing tall, straight, and erect with the appropriate lateral helix structure, which has that infinity or the figure 8 symbol that goes throughout, not just our DNA, it's through everything inside the body. Even the electrons are configured in that toroidal figure 8 pattern. In contrast, the person on the right, well, before we move on to that, let me tell you that when you're 2% dehydrated, you'll start to feel thirst, parchness in your mouth. At 8% dehydration, your DNA starts to unravel. Kind of a scary thought. Just 8% dehydration, your DNA starts to unravel, so it starts to collapse and fall upon itself. At this point, once you've reached about 8% dehydration, not only do your proteins fold, but you have dysregulation usually in more than one system of the body, which you're kind of on your way to death at that point, to be honest with you. At 10% dehydration, because our brains are water-loving, they're hydrophilic, at 10% dehydration, your brain cannot work. You cannot have a thought because inside your brain, because the nerves shrink and the proteins are folded, the electricity can't go from one neuron to another. So there's a disconnect. You cannot have a thought. So you literally lose your mind. And as soon as you hit 12% dehydration, it's a hard body shutdown because you're dead. You die as soon as you hit 12% dehydration, game over. Too bad, so sad. Next time, drink more water. So it's super important. I really have to emphasize how important it is to drink water from the time you wake up until you go to sleep and maintain. It's not like you want to flood it all during a certain time of day. You want to be watering your body from the time you get up until you go to sleep. Keep it kind of even, kind of like watering grass or watering plants. You don't want to flood them, right? You want to keep the moisture kind of even throughout the day. So, oh, by the way, the other thing is you want to be wearing the patches 12 hours on and then 12 hours off. So what do I mean by that? So the patches are intended primarily, with the exception of a couple patches, but you're going to be putting the patches on first thing in the morning after you wake up. So you apply the patches first thing in the morning. You'll wear it, you have sunrise to sunset. That's your sympathetic nervous system. And then 12 hours later, let's say you put them on at 9 a.m., 9 p.m., your alarm goes off, remove patches. 12 hours later, which is during your parasympathetic nervous system, you're going to remove your patches. And then that's your rest, repair, and restore cycle, which is part of your rest and digest cycle of the body. Because our body is on a 24-hour clock, right? Sunrise to sunset. Melatonin is signaled to make you sleepy at night. And then from sunset to sunrise, serotonin to wake you up. And there's other things that are going on in the body at the same time. Okay. So the thing to know, so here I'm going to share with you, this is Chris Williams. And Chris Williams started on the patches on June 30th. Here's a little story for you, it's so exciting to see these type of results. We have these coming in as every day, we get these testimonials. But Chris here, 5 months before this, because this picture was taken the first week of December, and he started on the patches on June 30th, basically the weekend of the 4th of July. And when we started him on the patches, he had come to us because he had already had chemo, already had radiation. He had esophageal cancer. When he would talk, he would just talk like this, and he could only talk for about 10 minutes. And he had sores all over his mouth, which made it very painful to speak. And there was nothing that the doctors could do with regards to the mouth sores. He also had an esophageal implant because he had to have his food pureed. He was looking into stem cells and paying anywhere. In his case, the stem cells that he was looking at getting, he was going to be paying anywhere from $12,000 to about $35K per IV session. When Lisa, one of our mutual friends, and Lisa happened to be my neighbor, she happened to tell him about the patches, and he immediately got started. The other thing that Chris had was he also had a right bundle branch blockage that he had developed because of the chemo and the radiation and everything he went through as a result of him having that stage 4 cancer. Well, fast forward to November of that was 2023. In November, his doctor told him, Chris, it looks like we can take out your esophageal implant. You don't seem to need that anymore. So they removed the esophageal implant. And they also discovered that his right bundle branch blockage was gone. And he was feeling so great in December of 2023 that he decided to join Lisa and myself and some of the other gals at the Reverse Aging Forum in Las Vegas, Nevada, called A4M. It's the largest anti-aging forum that they have in the world. You have people from all over the world that show up. And he said, I want to go there because I want to talk to people and I want to let them know about what this has done for me. So he showed up. Now, when Chris had started on the patches, he was about 45 pounds underweight. He had lost all of his hair, all of his eyebrows, eyelashes, his beard. He was in really bad shape when he started on the patches. And in the next slide, you're going to see Lisa had an update. Let me see if I have that in the next one. Okay, yeah, you can see here how he's definitely looking happy, and he was strong enough to leave home. He wasn't bedridden anymore. But here's the 10-day update. So this is June 30th, he started. 10 days later, on July 11th, we have this update. So it says here, hair is growing way faster than usual. Mouth ulcers were down 50% and disappearing. Pain in mouth down by 75% and disappearing. Skin looks good and is repairing. Age spots gone. He has loads of energy. And then Lisa reminded him that when they first talked about the patches, he couldn't talk for more than 10 minutes because he was in so much pain and his mouth was very sore. And she spoke to him on the 11th of July. And for 20 minutes, he was just going a mile a minute and he was very energized. He said today another friend had told him the exact same thing about how he was able to speak much longer. Then he went on to say that he had that prior Friday that he went to the doctor and the doctor could not stop commenting about how vibrant, how energetic, and overall good he looked. And his doctor wasn't saying like, hey, Chris, you look good. It was more like, wow, Chris, you look great. What are you doing? And then Lisa mentioned to Chris that her sister Monica, her hand had stopped shaking and she had just started on the patches. And then Chris realized, he said, oh my God, I didn't even notice. So did mine, because his hands were shaking too, because his autonomic nervous system was pretty fried from the chemo and the radiation. And then he mentioned to her that sleep. Oh my God. He said, haven't slept this good in so long. So he was on the Fantastic Five and he had horrible insomnia. So he was also on Silent Nights, which is a special patch that we have for people with really severe insomnia. So Lisa was thrilled to pieces that she was able to share this life-saving technology that radically made a difference pretty quickly for him. So the next person we have is a dear friend of mine, Dr. John. So Dr. John, my goodness, when he started, he had a right bundle branch blockage that he had discovered. He was hiking and he had just like a flopping fish sensation in his chest. And he also had a lot of pain in his right knee. So when he went to his first doctor and to check his knee out, his doctor said to him, good Lord, John, I don't know how you're walking on that thing. Your knee is a polished knob. You have no cartilage. You're going to need knee replacement surgery. John was like, no, 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 no. That sounds horrific. I am definitely not doing knee replacement surgery. I'll figure something else out. And then he went to not one or two, but he went to 3 separate cardiologists, 3 different practices, and all 3 of them confirmed that he had a right bundle branch blockage. Number 2, it was inoperable. And number 3, he was going to be on heart meds for the remainder of his life. Basically, the electrical wiring of his heart was no good. His pump may be okay, but the electrical, not good, which is why he had that right bundle branch blockage. And Dr. John, he has a brain center in his hometown, and he was already into things that were organic and holistic. And he thought to himself, surely there's got to be something on the planet that can fix me. And when you ask, you receive. So into his experience then showed up the patches, and he began to patch. And as John began to patch, when he started, he had gray hair, all gray hair. He had a lot of inflammation in his face. I happen to be trained and certified in traditional Chinese medicine, face reading for medical purposes. And you can see he had a lot of inflammation around his eyes. He had low testosterone. He had a whole bunch of stuff kind of going on. And in the first 4 months of him wearing the patches, he experienced no pain in his knee, and the cartilage had regrown in his knee in that 4 to 5 month period of him wearing the patches. And as he continued to wear the patches, he continued to do his follow-ups with his cardiologists. And he did verify with his doctor that had told him that he needed knee replacement surgery, his doctor was astonished to see that he regrew his cartilage, especially at his age, because he's over 60. He's actually in his 70s. And when you're in your 60s, you only have 10% of your stem cells left. So it's very rare for somebody to regrow bone or let alone regrow cartilage. So fast forward to the 14th month mark. And when he goes back to all three cardiologists, they're all astonished to discover that his right bundle branch blockage disappeared. They could not find it in the EKGs or any of the scans that they did. And all three of them basically said the same thing. They're like, well, we can't explain how this happened, but you have no right bundle branch blockage. It has disappeared. We've never read a case study, never seen any evidence of this in our practice. This is kind of an unexplainable phenomena. At which point then John disclosed to them that he's been on stem cell activation patches for the last 14 plus months, which then all three of them basically concurred and said the same thing. Well, they're obviously working. Do not stop using them. And the rest is history. So during the 14 months, the other phenomena that took place, you can clearly see that the inflammation went down, the collagen in his face, obviously, not only his face, the collagen throughout his body, but from this picture, we only have pictured his face, but also his original hair color started to come back. And we're told that one of his patients at his clinic noticed that he had a dark stretch of hair all of a sudden in the back of his head. And then it just grew from back to front. And to this day, he just has a little bit of gray in the front. So last February, when we were at a leadership event, and he authored a book about GHKCU copper peptide. So we were at a stem cell conference. So they asked him to sign the book. And so John's about 6'4", I'm only 5'1". So as soon as he bent down, I took a picture of the top of his head and I was able to document. You can see clearly he doesn't have any gray hair. He doesn't have any bald spots. It's all solid brown hair. And you can clearly see that in the front of his face. He has just a touch of gray, around the temples and a little bit on the top. The rest is all brown. All right, next person here. So this is my dear friend Barry, who, when I started him on the patches, he was one of the first people I started on the patches in June of 2022. So we started him on the patches actually June 2023. And he had horrible long haulers COVID for about 18 months. And he had tried everything. He could not sleep. He would wake up every morning with a terrible headache, with nausea, no stamina, terrible fatigue, and he could not sleep. His insomnia, he tried everything, whether it was prescription, over the counter, cannabis, and all sorts of form, gummies, nothing worked. And he just kept on wearing out more and more because he couldn't sleep. He couldn't recuperate from this long haulers COVID. Well, we got him on as soon as I told him, I'm like, Barry, we got to get you on the patches. He's like, order them up, send them to me. So he received them on the 22nd. We started him. Normally you start people to apply the patches first thing in the morning, but he hadn't slept in a year and a half. So I said, let's start you now, and then we'll transition you to wearing them during the day, but you need to get a good night's rest. So let's put them on now. So it was about 3:30 in the afternoon on the 22nd. And I told him, tomorrow about this time, it'll be 24 hours later, just get in touch with me. Let me know how your sleep was, what you notice about inflammation, and anything else that you notice as a result of wearing your patches. So the next day I got this text message. Thank goodness he texted me, because that's why I'm able to share the screenshot with you. So Barry says, hey, and he lives in Canada, Airdrie, Canada. He says, hey, Lillian, just a note, didn't know if it's a placebo or if the stem cell activation patches work that quick or what, but I had really good sleep and a little better sleep than other nights. I fell asleep quicker. Today I'm just on a high. Stop here, pause. This is a guy that was wiped out, exhausted with fatigue, no stamina, woke up every day with a headache, terrible nausea, and today he's saying that he's just on a high. He says, I'm ecstatic, and Gwen, his wife, sees that in me, and I feel really, really good physically when I awoke this morning. No headache, no nausea. Yeah, it's been just great. Been a phenomenal day. So thank you, and I'll update you as we go along. Thanks, bye. Since then, I have patched probably over 1,000 people who tested positive for COVID, and within 24 hours of them wearing the patches, every single one of them, their symptoms disappeared within 24 hours. The fastest that I've had to date, I've only had one person who reported that 2 hours and 17 minutes after he put on the patches and started drinking the water, 2 hours, 17 minutes later, all of his COVID symptoms were gone. And he's obviously still contagious, but at least he felt relief and no longer was burdened by that. So rather than, I'm going to talk about this one, and I'm going to skip over my testimonial because we've got plenty of videos where you can watch the whole interview, or you can watch a short version of my testimonial from when I got hit by a bus. But this is a friend of mine, Kathy, who lives in Vegas. I have 3 crazy friends. They know I call them crazy because these women jump out of perfectly good planes. They're super athletic. They're daredevils. All 3 of them hold world records for different aspects of skydiving. Kathy happens to live in Vegas, and she happened to have 3 breast implants that caused autoimmune disorder. And for 33 years, she suffered from those 3 breast implants. As if that wasn't bad enough, she had a freak accident when she was skydiving a few years back. And lo and behold, there was an atmospheric change in pressure where all of a sudden she was slammed against the ground, like the whole team as they were landing. Everybody was injured, but she was slammed, like it just slammed against the ground. She hit so hard that they all assumed that she must be dead. So nobody ran to her. And because they were afraid to see what they were going to find, and they were sure that nobody could survive that kind of slamming against the ground. So she had some pretty severe injuries from that accident. So our mutual friend, Annie, another daredevil skydiver that does these formations day or night, she had her own experience with the patches and told her, Kathy, you need to get on these patches. And Kathy was really cynical and almost insulted that Annie would insinuate that these little patches could do what 33 years worth of doctors who had tried to help her, all these experts weren't able to, that are supposed to be experts in autoimmune disorders, not one had been able to give her relief. And now she's got that plus recuperating from these very serious injuries. And she said, well, you're telling me that these little Band-Aid stickers are going to repair what all these experts haven't been able to? She's like, I don't think so. And then Annie challenged her and she said, listen, you got to wear these patches. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, but you're going to need, your injuries are so severe, you're going to have to be on these patches at least 2 years. And she was over 60. She was 62 years old. I know this picture doesn't look like it, but this picture is almost a year into her wearing the patches, so she reversed aged. So Annie luckily counseled her and told her, make sure you take pictures now and every 30 days that you're on the patches, because you're going to want to document your progress. Luckily, she did. And so in October of 2022, Kathy posted on her Facebook page, she posted the 4 pictures of her chest that you see here on the left. She didn't post, at the time, she would never take a profile picture. So she had these 4 pictures. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, holy cow, I didn't realize her chest was so wrinkled because I never really paid attention. And when I saw that, you see in January 2022, she has a lot of wrinkles, a lot of, basically sun damage from being in the sun so much. In March, you can clearly see a significant decline in wrinkles. By June, 6 months of wearing the patches, the wrinkles are gone. She has a tiny little bit of lines if you look really closely. By July, at the 7-month mark, no wrinkles, no fine lines, no lines of any sort. She's got this incredible restoration. What's more exciting that you can't tell by the pictures is that her injuries and all of her symptoms from autoimmune disorder by the 7th month, gone. And on top of that, she had this reverse aging effect where the crepey skin that she had throughout her body and her arms and her torso and her face, all of that had disappeared as well. And she had this younger, more youthful appearance. And to me, she looks like a 35, 40-year-old, not like, well, now she's 65, but at the time she was 62 when she started on the patches. So that's a pretty cool experience. I did have her on my YouTube channel, and she gave me a full hour where she told her entire story. If you're interested in taking a look at that, you can ask Eva for it, and she will provide you that link so that you can listen to that interview. And there's a surprise there because she put the patches on a cat that was on its way out, and the transformation in the cat in just a short period was pretty mind-blowing too. This is my before and after. Rather than get into that, the bottom line is I had a traumatic brain injury. I was hit by a bus 3 blocks shy of finishing a 16-mile bike ride. I had this laundry list of all these neurological conditions on top of brain damage, total short-term memory loss, neck, spine, and leg damage. I got it all cleared up in less than a year and a half. So that's the short version of my story. I think other people's stories are far more impressive and fascinating than my own. But right now, I'm going to take just a few more minutes. Then we're going to be going into the question and answer session. I'm just going to go through and tell you what each one of the Fantastic Five. I'm going to show you the bullet points. You don't have the burden of having to remember any of this. We are recording this, so you are going to be able to rewatch this. And the other thing is that Eva will also send you the bullet points through text message so that you'll always have that as a record. You can always look in your text messages and see what those bullet points are so you know what each patch does, okay? So the first patch is the mother cell activation patch. This is the mother stem cell activation patch. It's like our flagship #1 hero. And this resets a third of your genes to a younger, healthier state. It actually turns on GHKCU copper peptide, activating the P63 protein. That's the on switch to all this regeneration in your body. So it's going to regenerate cells, replacing damaged cells, restores collagen, rebuilds scar tissue. Any scar tissue you have inside or outside of the body, it'll replace it with the original tissue, which is why I no longer have a scar on the right leg where I previously had a laceration from my ankle to my knee. That's gone, thank goodness. Reduces fine lines and wrinkles, as you saw with my friend Kathy, and even myself, I had some wrinkles around my eyes. Those are now gone too. Increased energy, increased sexual libido, increased antioxidants, anti-aging, anti-inflammatories. You get pain relief, 50 to 100% within 3 to 4 minutes. Improved hair growth, isn't this exciting? Improved deeper, sounder sleep, because the mother cell activation patch induces a REM state of sleep. Okay. The question that a lot of people ask us is like, okay, where do you put these patches? Well, we can't say that we have a protocol, but we do have recommendations, or a VC, which is a Veritas Concilium, a true plan of action. We apply the patches on traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points. You don't need to know acupuncture. We will tell you where it is that you need to put them based on what your symptoms are or what your health goals are. And this will magnify the effects of the patches on the body. The patches work anywhere on the body, but depending on what issue, aches, pains, dysregulation, problems that you have with your body, we can get, I'm going to need to plug in this laptop. Give me a second, because I had a full charge, but it must be going through energy a little faster here in Europe because I had a full battery charge. So let me just plug this in real quickly. So the next thing, go to the next one. I'll plug this in while we're talking. The next thing is the daughter cell activation patch. And here, give me a quick second and I will just plug this in. Okay, should be good. Okay. So the next one is the daughter. Sorry for that interruption. The next one is the daughter cell activation patch. Different from the mother. The mother activates GHKCU. This one activates a different tripeptide called AHKCU, copper peptide. This is going to protect you against radiation poisoning. So it'll give you radiation poisoning relief because your natural Faraday cage extends, providing this protection. This increases lean muscle mass and strength because all mammals, as we age, lose lean muscle mass and we lose bone density. This one will increase bone density. You may not know this, but your bones, just like your DNA are energy amplifiers, your bones are large semiconductors of electricity. And through your bones, that's where your blood is created through the bone marrow and then distributed through your liver, etc. You get increased energy with this. Focus and cardiovascular function increases. You're protected from electromagnetic frequencies from 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi radiation, from your desktop, laptop, iPad, notepad, cell phones. This patch also, if you have belly fat, it will reduce your belly fat because it's going to use that as an immediate source of energy instead of using energy from glucose from whatever your last meal was that you ate. So also, final noting is that if you have osteoporosis, which osteoporosis is not a sickness, even though in the States, doctors tend to treat it as a disease or an illness. But osteoporosis, the Latin word osteo means bone, porosis means porous. It's a descriptor of what state your bones are in. And 100% of mammals, this is not just human beings, cats, dogs, horses, all mammals, including humans, because we're microwaved, because of the radiation and microwaves and radio frequencies in our environment, we lose lean muscle mass. And we also have bones that become more porous as we age because they're being cooked. So this reverses that because your body has the cellular stem cell activation of a 30-year-old, 25, 30-year-old, as opposed to whatever age you are. If you're a child that has anything going on, whatever damaged DNA or up or down regulated DNA gets reset to whatever their DNA, they have 100% of their DNA, but it gets reset to what it was at conception rather than where it's standing right now. Okay. The next patch, the third patch, here's a little reminder to drink 50% your weight in ounces of water from the time you wake up until you go to sleep. Okay, the next patch is our gladiator patch, our glutathione patch. Gosh, I love this patch because I had brain damage. So I really needed my glutathione levels to be upregulated, to be increased. When you wear this patch, your glutathione levels will go up 300 to 600% within the first 24 hours based on what your original glutathione levels were when you were conceived, at conception. So you need glutathione not only to boost your immune system and to detox from pretty much everything, germs, virus, bacteria, fungus, mold, parasites, synthetics, metals, man-made or organic toxins, but that's what you need to regrow nerves. So for your autonomic nervous system, your central nervous system, your peripheral nervous system, for all the neurons in your brain, you need glutathione. So this is a very, very powerful patch, and that's why I call glutathione our gladiator. It's also going to boost your antivirals. So boy, this patch was extremely helpful during the pandemic. Knock on wood, even though I patched over 1,000 people that tested positive for COVID, I've never come down with COVID. I've never had COVID symptoms. Tested positive for COVID once, but I think in Mexico, because I was in Mexico when I tested positive, I had no symptoms. And I think they just wanted me to stay there for an extra 10 to 11 days to spend more money as a tourist. I'm fine with it because I can work anywhere. But anyhow, pretty funny story. Also, glutathione is also your radio protector against DNA damage. Pretty important because, as you know, DNA is an energy amplifier. The other thing is anytime anybody has any kind of neurological presentation, any symptoms that are affecting your neurology, you've had things like, again, we don't make medical claims, but if you have anything like symptoms of dementia, Alzheimer's, senility, if you have Parkinson's, MS, myasthenia gravis, Guillain-Barré, again, any kind of neurological presentation or neuropathy or neuralgia in the hands and feet, anything along those lines, usually you have low or no glutathione levels. The other thing to note is that because you have your nerves regulated with glutathione, this also helps promote relaxation and reduce stress in the body. The next patch is carnosine. Oh, before we go on to carnosine, this is an excerpt that I took out of a research paper in case you or someone you know has any of these organs that are affected by whatever syndrome, condition, or disease or diagnosis. I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of this. The research paper, we have over 90 scientific papers. In this particular one, it showed that people wearing the glutathione patches 12 hours daily over just a 4-week period, they produced a highly significant improvement in the physiological functional status of the pancreas, liver, gallbladder, intestines, left and right adrenals, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland, and a very significant improvement in the pancreas with a statistical power of at least 72%. So stated differently, all organs achieved a significant cellular physiologic functional status improvement compared to the baseline with a power of at least 91%. So I'm sure you guys are aware that pre-diabetes, diabetes, juvenile diabetes, even gestational. I mean, it used to be that it was very rare for pregnant women to get diabetes, but now it seems like the majority of pregnant women have gestational diabetes. And we know why that is. There's a lot of environmental factors, but the good news is that we can reverse this naturally, organically, holistically, without any medicines, just signaling your own body. Okay, the next patch is carnosine. So this one improves and supports your cardiovascular system, all things related to heart and muscle. It also helps improve your brain function, memory focus, and brain processing speed. That's the speed with which you can recall and use information that you've been previously exposed to. This also, because it has to do with muscles, it increases your strength, your stamina, and endurance. And this patch detoxes your brain from aluminum. So a lot of individuals are unaware of how much aluminum exposure they've had throughout their lifetime. And most of us have grown up in the United States where toothpaste was in an aluminum tube. And even organic toothpaste is in an aluminum tube. It wasn't until 2014 that the consumers of Tom's toothpaste in the US kept on begging and pleading with the maker of Tom's toothpaste saying, how can you have this organic toothpaste in an aluminum tube when we've known for 25, 30 years that aluminum is a known neurotoxin, and now the paste is sitting in an aluminum tube, it's absorbing trace amounts of aluminum. Now you put it, you're not swallowing the toothpaste, but you're brushing your teeth. It's directly on the gums. It's being directly been absorbed in your head, into the bloodstream, into the brain. Not a good thing. So in 2014, Tom's toothpaste was the first to switch over to a recyclable plastic tubing. Then all the other toothpaste makers followed suit. But think of all the beers, the waters, the sparkling waters, the punch, juice, any kind of beverage you can imagine that you've drunk out of an aluminum can. Think of all the food that you've taken home when you've gone to a restaurant that's been in an aluminum container with aluminum foil. All the pies that you've eaten that were baked in aluminum pie tins, right? If somebody works at a steel or a car manufacturing plant or a aluminum awning manufacturer, now you're not only eating it from all these different, aluminum, that's a aluminum foil wrapped around potatoes or meat, baked or through a barbecue. As soon as your food is touching aluminum, you're getting trace amounts of aluminum, which now you're starting to get the picture of why we've seen such a rise in Alzheimer's and dementia and all sorts of other neurological declines that we didn't have 75 to 100 years ago. And it's pervasive over the last 75 years, and it just keeps growing. So something to think about. So this is going to help you detox from aluminum. This is a master antioxidant that your body naturally creates, and now we're signaling it to turn back on to make your body more efficient at detoxing and functioning. And if you have any wounds inside or outside of your body, this is going to expedite that as well. Little reminder to drink your water. And then the last of the 5 is the Eon patch, and that's our master antioxidant, anti-inflammatory patch. So we call this the happy patch. That's why we have a little happy face here. We call it the happy patch because people legitimately feel happy. Sometimes in as little as 20 minutes, their PTSD, anxiety, they get a calming effect. Our research shows that within 20 minutes, they'll have this calmed feeling effect. But oftentimes within the first 3 weeks, 21 days of them wearing the patches, people will also report back to me and report back to us that they not only feel happier, but other people around them have noticed that they're much happier. And in many cases, the only thing that they've changed is that they're wearing the patches and they're drinking their water. I do have enough cases of people that after a week of being on the patches, they have enough energy where now they couldn't walk before, maybe more than 100 yards, or just walk to their kitchen and get fatigued. And now they're walking 3, 4, 5, 6 miles after being on the patches for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It's pretty amazing. So this patch, in addition to doing that calming effect, it lowers your cortisol and your C-reactive proteins while it balances, because your brain is out of balance before you start on the patches. And now your brain starts to get in balance as cortisol and C-reactive protein are brought into balance. That gives you that calming effect, but you're alert and you're awake. And a lot of people also describe everything looking brighter, clearer, and more vibrant in color. It all depends on what the condition of the person's body was, and how many toxins and how much damage they may have had experienced prior to patching. Okay. The last thing to know is that this increases something called anti-neoplastins. A lot of people have never heard of that. Your body is naturally designed to make anti-neoplastins, and anti-neoplastins are peptides that are found in the urine and blood of normal, healthy people. Anti-neoplastins are your body's natural first line of defense to fight off the multiplication and the growing and proliferation of cancer cells in the body. So anti-neoplastins are also good for fighting infections. So in a clinical setting, they use anti-neoplastins that they get from donor blood, and they centrifuge that out, take the plasma out, and re-inject it into a person's body. They're used for various cancers, high cholesterol, brain swelling, due to different types of infections. Now you're going to have your natural anti-neoplastins that are going to turn back on, which is part of the reason why we have people who've been diagnosed with the big C, and after wearing the patches, the Fantastic Five specifically, in less than a year, we oftentimes see, almost every single time, we see PET scans and CAT scans and MRIs showing that the tumors have disappeared, and the PET scans show that there's no trace, not even in the bones, when oftentimes they've had it metastasized to the bones, and now there's no trace. And again, we don't make medical claims. I'm just reporting back the findings that we get from people who've been on the patches. The last thing I want to close with before we open it up for questions is that it's important for people to know that the very desktop computer, whether it's a desktop, laptop, iPad, notepad, or your cell phone that you're watching this presentation on, you get blue light toxicity from that. And people are completely unaware of the fact that blue light toxicity destroys your DHEA fountain of youth hormone, which is why it's so important to wear blue blockers. These, I used to wear prescription glasses. These are no longer prescription glasses. These are readers, but I have blue light blockers on here because the patches are going to help with restoring your DHEA fountain of youth hormone. Blue light toxicity also causes inflammation in the body. It causes a spike in glucose, and it also causes insulin resistance. Something to think about. Now, you have a way of unringing the bell of that damage through stem cell activation. Okay, so anybody who's here, I'm going to ask you to unmute all of you. If any of you have a question, you can go ahead and ask your question. The first person to unmute can ask their question, and then we can go on to, it looks like Michelle unmuted. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good. Question, what is the age appropriate for the patches? Because I have a 23-year-old and I know he would be interested in doing this as well.
Yes, that's a fantastic question. So he's 23 years old, he's over 18. All of our studies were done with adults ages 18 to 85 years of age. My oldest patient is 102, and the youngest I have is, I want to say, a 5-month-old. Um, so because they're over the counter, they're not medicine. This is not this is a medical device. It's not medicine. So, just like a mother can choose to give a child Tylenol, a mother can choose to put the patches on their kid. Your son's 23, so he's an adult. So he's definitely like the Olympic athletes, because a lot of the athletes go from 15 all the way to like 40 years of age. So your son could definitely wear them. We have, like I said, a lot of Olympic athletes. Dr. Stacy's son, who's 20, when I first met him, he was kind of a scrawnier 18-year-old, but he like majorly works out now, and he is starting to look like Goliath because, yeah, the patches really help build lean muscle and are, you know, performance enhancing. So, yeah,
Right.
your son
Because
will definitely be able to use
do
this.
order, I already know the two that I want to order. I want to do the X39, and I don't know, is that how you say it? The Ion,
Yeah,
AEON,
yeah, Eon.
because he works out. He's a total workout fiend. And so, what would you recommend for him?
For him, I would do 39 and 49, because we all need 49 because we have radiation poisoning everywhere and the blue light toxicity. So I would say 39 and 49 for him. He's probably, it would be good for him to have Eon on hand in case, he overdoes it with, sometimes the workouts and so forth. But most athletes do 39 and 49, and then the Eon, they'll do it as needed. If they if they picked up too much and they strained a muscle, they just slap Eon on it, and usually like within 24 hours, they're like good to go again. It's kind of amazing.
Wow. Okay. This is so interesting to me because I do everything. I do candida cleanses, I do parasite cleanses, I do it all. And I have autoimmune, and like my face looks like the pictures of some of the people. So if my face can go down like from the bloating, oh my God, hallelujah.
So your autoimmune, that's going to get reset. So you're going to have a 300 to 600% increase in glutathione. If you have autoimmune, I would really encourage you to do the Fantastic Five, uh, because you really need to reset your entire body to get your immune system back into balance and into check. Probably for the next 12 months, at least 12 to 18 months. After that, you can come back just down to X39 and X49. You can just decide how to move forward with that. But yeah, you're gonna notice a pretty, you already eat really healthy and consciously, and you're already doing those cleanses. So your body is going to really take to this like a duck to water, because your body is going to be far more efficient at taking everything that you're doing already, and it's just going to be more magnified. So you're way ahead of the game from most, because not everybody, a lot of people have never done a candida cleanse, have never done a parasite cleanse, have never done a gallbladder liver cleanse. You're already, detox baths, etc. So you're way ahead of the game. You're like an Eve, because Eva is in the same boat. She's always been into all these different modalities like myself. So that's an advantage. But yeah, any other question, Michelle?
Just one more. The last one is, so if you were to do all five, how do you do those patches like every 12 hours? So you do like three and two, or like,
You wear them all at the same time. Just I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can see that I have one here, right?
okay.
Okay, I'm going to change.
Okay.
So you see the one that I have here on my chest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And is the view okay? Make sure. Yeah, I have it to speaker view. Okay. So you can see here that I have it on my chest, right? And then if I turn around,
Right. Okay.
so you just put them in a row that's governing vessel 14. It's where your brain stem goes down into your spinal column to signal your whole body. Very powerful acupuncture point. So yeah, you just wear them there. And so, yeah, in your particular case, unless you have pain, if you have some severe pain somewhere or even mild pain anywhere in the body, whatever your worst pain is, you take the Fantastic Five and then we point to the pain, surround that area with those patches, and it'll take your pain down in 30 seconds to, it could be 2, 3 minutes or up to 10 minutes. If you have,
Okay, so
if you have ice wave, that'll for sure take it down because ice wave is our pain management patch that turns off pain receptors. So it literally turns them off. So while those 5 patches are repairing and regenerating, ice wave turns off the pain receptors so that you experience 50 to 100% pain relief.
an ice wave is another patch. So that would be like 6, right?
Yeah, and that's you only use ice wave as needed. Usually people who have some pretty severe pain, they'll only use it for 1 to 2 months. And usually within a 2 month period, they're like, okay, I don't need this anymore. And then they just have it on hand in case of an emergency or if they need it, or somebody trips in the family or somebody has an accident or whatever goes on, they have it because they don't want to have to order it and wait a couple of days to get it. So it's a patch you want to have on hand in case of, but it's an as needed only.
So if I have like the carpal tunnel, would I put it on my wrist? Like for like, because I chef and I have 2 businesses and I'm always tapping my adrenals, like my hands, using my hands. So
Yeah, so you can use it on your hands to move the energy of the carpal tunnel and to take the pain level down. You're going to notice a significant improvement also in that, and all sorts of other things that will start to disappear. Also, people who, I've had people who had a sinus infection, and it normally takes them a couple months to clear that. In the first day of putting the Fantastic Five patches, and then they take the ice wave on the left and the right sinus, and then in less than 30 minutes, their head clears and the pressure from the sinus infection goes away. And usually within 2, 3 days, they no longer have a sinus infection. It just goes away. And then they didn't have to use antibiotics, which they're like, I always have to be on antibiotics for 2.5 months. And I hear that all the time because some people routinely get sinus infections every fall.
right, right.
They're like, wow, and they don't necessarily they have fullness of the head, but not necessarily a headache. But like I said, it just moves the energy, turns off the pain receptors, clears the head space, and then your body detoxes from whatever infection you have more efficiently. So that's why it clears much quicker.
Right, exactly. Okay, so like if you get the 5 patches, you wake up in the morning and then you could put some on your neck and then like some like right like below the navel area. But then do you just take those off after 12 hours and you don't put any on at night? Like doesn't any
you don't need to put any, yeah, you don't need to put any on at night.
Okay.
You can just wear those during the day. I always like to do patch placement with each person that we start on the patches. So depending on what your circumstances are, because I have had some people who, like I had a doctor, I don't want to say her name, but and she has a pain management clinic. And when we put her on the Fantastic Five patches, oh my gosh, it was like the first time that she had pain relief in like years. So she didn't want to take them off after 12 hours. So she wore the patches like 2 days in a row. And I was like, oh, I go, about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. You can't wear them for 2 days in a row like that. I go, now you're going to have to.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, I go, now you're going to have to wait 2 days of not wearing the patches because you signaled your body for 48 hours. Now you have to give your body 48 hours of rest before you can put them on. And she said, well, after the first 12 hours, I went to take them off and the pain came back. So I put them back on. And when I wanted to take them off after 24 hours, the pain came back again. So that's why I put them back on. I go, you should have called me because instead, what we could do is we can split up the patches so that you wear, let's say 39 and glutathione and carnosine during the day, and then 40, depending on what your presentation. I don't want to just say you split up X39 and 49 versus glutathione, carnosine, and neon, but depending on the cause of what your pain is and what the organ system that's tied to it, I will tell you, okay, just so you have 24-hour coverage. And she hadn't gotten ice wave. I can split them up so that you have 24-hour coverage, different patches. So the Fantastic Five would be split up over the 24 hours so that you don't have that experience of the pain coming back just because you're not wearing the patches. So
Right.
we can do that. That's no problem. But we don't want you signaling the body 24 or 48 hours in a row, because that's not good. You're disrupting your circadian rhythms, which
Right.
is not a good thing to do.
Right. Definitely. Okay. Thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else have any other questions? Jan, Joyce? Okay, since I don't, if you're just trying to get your mic to unmute, then I'm going to wrap this up here.
I'll ask a question if you can hear me.
Now I can hear you. Yes, Jan, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not very computer literate, so I don't know what I'm doing here. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative.
Thank you. And
My
apparently,
question is,
go ahead.
since I'm in my 70s, I'm going to have to be doing this for 7 months before I'm going to notice any results?
No, that's not true. You have to do at least 7 months in order to turn on the 33% of your original stem cells for conception. That doesn't mean you'll be done in 7 months. You will have successfully turned on all of your previously dormant stem cells to the tune of 33%. After that, but you need to continue to signal. We always recommend people be on the patches for at least 12 to 18 months, because without being on stem cell activation patches, your body's on a 7-year cycle to repair and to replace all 56 trillion cells. In your case, you're over 60, you're 70 something, right? So you only have 10%, you only have 10% of your stem cells that are still on. That's going to take you to the finish line until you apply the stem cell activation patches. And the moment you put these on, now you're going to have 10% plus 33, you're going to be 43 to 50%. So once you've been on the patches for 12 to 18 months, now your body can turn on new cells in addition to the 33%. So then that's where you have that magnified effect. And that's why we have people like you saw Dr. Stacy, how she looks like she's 25, 30 years old, but she's 51, right? So you're going to simply be signaling your body. Your body's going to, while you're wearing the patches for 12 hours every day, as long as you're wearing those every day for the next 12 to 18 months, your body's going to behave like your body behaved when it was 30 years old, a healthy version of you at 30. Even if you were unhealthy at 30, it's going to behave like a younger, healthier version of you at 30 years of age, because you're turning on your original stem cells from when you were conceived. So that's why that works. Yeah. And then you can
then what happens?
Yeah.
What happens then? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say you can stop anytime you no longer want to signal your body to have that additional 33% stem cells to be activated.
Okay, because my question is then, after the 12 to 18 months, I mean, is this something that once you're on it, you can't get off it?
You can get
Like
off it. It's a choice. You can get off of it at any time. It's kind of like vitamins. We all need vitamins because the food supply is terrible and deficient. But you don't have to. Once you start vitamins, it's not like you can't stop. You can stop at any time. You're just lacking those nutrients. So personal choice. You can choose to continue to patch the rest of your life, or you can choose to stop for a period or stop forever. It's a personal choice. You don't even have to start if you don't want, it's just
when you stop, do you lose whatever it is that you gained?
No, your body, after you've patched for 12 to 18 months, your body biologically, when you do blood tests and you check your biomarkers, your biological age will be 15, 20, 25 years younger. So your body is going to, even though chronologically you're a year and a half older, biologically your body is behaving, and we've even measured telomere lengths on your DNA, which that's what determines how long you're going to live. So we've seen telomere lengths lengthen and grow. So your body's going to think that it's a younger body than what it actually is. So if your body thinks that it's 15, 20 years younger, it will just continue to age at that age moving forward. You won't lose. It's not like everything unravels, right after you stop patching.
Okay, so theoretically, if I took them for like
You-
12 to 18 months,
Mhm.
and then I decided to stop for a couple of months,
You could do
I
that.
could go back on them again.
Yeah, I've had people who who stopped for a month, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way. I want to get back on. I feel so good. I feel so much better on the patches." They're like, and they get back on the patches. Some of them may even go more than a couple months, but it's a personal choice. So yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's like I said, it's not. These are not by prescription. These are a general wellness product. It's a personal choice. It's just like vitamins. Vitamins, you don't need a prescription either. So it's a personal choice as to how much you want to help optimize your body and give it that advantage and protection from all the chemtrails and the radiation poisoning and the blue light toxicity and all that. So it's
Yeah.
it's for you to choose if you want to do that or not.
So now, if you want to do if you don't want to do the X39 and X49, but you want the benefits from those other patches, will they work without the X29 and 39?
They're going to work not as well because you're not activating you only have 10% of your stem cells, so they're not going to work nearly as well, really.
Okay.
In order for you to,
I'm just asking questions because
you can do
yeah.
it, you're going to have limited results. Really, you have to activate your mother and your daughter's stem cells in order to get the full benefit. So, yeah. But like I
Okay.
said, you don't have to do them at all.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, gives me something to think about anyway.
Yeah, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to look at not just our testimonials, but also see the different research studies and the different educational videos that both myself and Dr. Stacy and some of the other doctors. I'm not a medical doctor; I don't write prescriptions, but we have plenty of educational videos and tons of content and also our scientist. He's a great educator, teaching us about all different things about the human body and what the research is actually showing right now. So yeah, you have plenty of time to do that.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Nice meeting you. Anybody else with any other questions? And apparently you're better at computer and technology because you got on here perfectly fine. And
Yeah, it wasn't easy though.
yeah, you seem to manage it just fine. So you're doing great. Joyce, do you have any other questions? Or let me see. Eva Michelle already asked. If anybody else has any other questions, let me know.
I just have one more. Sorry.
Sure. No, this is what this is for. Let me know what questions you have.
So if since you're taking patches, can you eliminate anything? Like, can you eliminate taking vitamin D or vitamin C, your magnesium or your minerals? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to be able to, or should we just keep on what we're doing?
That's a fantastic question. I've had people who have saved so much money on supplements. That's not to say that you don't take any supplements. I'm not a big vitamin D proponent. I think it's much better. And Eva knows this. I'm a much bigger proponent that instead of taking a synthetic form of vitamin D, that instead you get out in the sun first thing in the morning and then an hour or half an hour before sunset. Even if it's just 5 minutes, believe it or not, that's enough. But I also teach people how to sway test their body so that you'll know, like whatever supplements you have, don't throw any of them out because you're going to want to test your body. And every 30 days, your body chemistry is changing because you're reverse aging and you're optimizing and detoxing and purging heavy metals and toxins and things like that. So your body its needs change. And our food supply, we know that it's deficient. So you can just simply sway test and see, oh, I need calcium, magnesium now, or my body's saying, I don't need calcium, magnesium now, but I do need vitamin K or selenium or whatever it is that you have. So I would say that you could sway test your body and then you could determine what things you need to continuously take and what things you don't.
Right.
But I've had people who save $700-800 a month because
I was just say I spend a fortune on like supplements. So I mean, if this is like this, and all happy.
Yeah.
To,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
you'll because your body's so much more efficient and you're already eating healthy, clean food. So yeah, your body's going to be able to methylate and digest things and use more of the energy and the nutrition more efficiently. So you're gonna notice all sorts of stuff that yeah.
right, makes
Yeah, so
sense.
it's very common for people to take a lot less supplements.
Right. Okay, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to get into the cost. Obviously, we can't charge you $1 million, and trust me, we've had people that say it's like I'd pay $1 million, I'd pay $3 million for all this. But really, traditional stem cell therapy ranges anywhere from 8,000. Although I did have somebody who paid $5,000 for an IV, which is kind of a little suspect. But you can get IVs or injections for, let's say, $8,000 to $30,000 per session, and usually you need multiple sessions. There's controversy, of course, with many people with the morality of using donor stem cells and the source of those donor stem cells. But the truth of the matter is that when you are introducing somebody else's immune system, first of all, you have a 50-50 acceptance and rejection rate with anything, donor stem cells, donor organs, even blood transfusions. Anytime you introduce somebody else's immune system into yours, you know that maybe not immediately, but somewhere in your lifetime, you're probably going to have some sort of autoimmune disorder. The neat thing about our patches is that you are activating your original stem cells. So it's nothing outside of you that's being put in. Your original stem cells from when you were conceived are being turned back on. So it can only benefit you. There's no negative effects and there's no side effects. Everything is your body behaving as it originally was intended to from conception, without any triggering from anything your mother may have eaten, injected, inhaled, absorbed during pregnancy, after birth, etc. So for the price of 2 cups of coffee a day, you can get the Fantastic Five. Or if you're just doing the X39 for the price of 1 cup of coffee a day, you can get stem cell activation. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Let me see if I can find my way here to. Okay. So I'm going to share with you our order form. Eva can make sure that you guys get the to get started text is the same thing as this order form. Don't worry about the top part because that's confusing. You don't need to, like, we know what the Fantastic Five is, and then we can tailor the packages to you. The middle package here, the advanced pack is normally $750. And the core pack and the advanced pack are both 30% savings to you. These are Dr. Wholesale packs, by the way. So the advanced pack, which is normally $750, you're going to get for $535. If you were looking at the retail price on our website, and I apologize for our website, it's not designed to sell you stuff, so it's very confusing. We're not like Amazon, which is designed to sell you one or many, and to sell it to you fast. Our site is not, we're working on it. We really are. But the good news is that you have people like Eva and myself to help you. That being said, the first two are a 30% discount, and our most popular pack is our premium pack. But getting back to the Fantastic Five, the advanced pack gives you room for the Fantastic Five, and you pay for 5 and you get 5 free with the advanced pack. So that's the Fantastic Five and then 5 supportive patches. So if you need, let's say you need Ice Wave because you have severe pain, or if you need Silent Nights, or you have digestive or hormonal, reproductive organ, endocrine system, digestive system, or maybe cravings, and maybe you need an appetite modulator, our SP6 patch helps with that. If you have severe insomnia, you need Silent Nights, you can add that and you can basically try it for free because normally the patches are about $149 for a 30-day supply. And here they drop down to the Fantastic Five. They're basically 100 a piece. It's $535 for all 5, and then you get 5 free. The premium pack, you get up to 50% off. So here you pay for 3 months of patches, and then they give you 10 additional, the sleeves is a 1 month supply. So you get 10 free. So you end up with 5 months total in this premium pack. This is normally a $3,000 pack, and you're getting it for $1,750. So if someone is having an issue where they really can't right now because circumstances, if you can't afford either of these two and you can only do the 295, then you pay for 3 and get 1 free. So the 295 will give you the 39, the 49, the Eon, and depending on if you have pain, you could get an ice wave, or you can get a carnosine if you need more cardiovascular things, or if your immune system is more, but you'll get 4 of the Fantastic Five. And then, so 295 would be the first month. And after the first, these are not committing you to this monthly amount. This is just your initial pack to get started. Okay. Then after that, the Fantastic Five, you're entitled now to the wholesale pricing and the lowest pricing. So the Fantastic Five are $329 a month. So that's a bit of a savings. So any other questions about this? Because of course we have to fill out this form. We send it to you in a text message. You don't have to print this out. The text message is basically all these fields in bullet point form in a to get started text. And then in the bottom of that text, you'll have a link that you click on it, and it's the PDF of this. And then we have a product summary document, which I like the bullet points better than the product summary, but some people, every now and then people like the product summary. It just describes what basically the bullet points that I shared here with you today. Okay. Last but not least, if you want to look at all 90 studies, you can go to startx39now.com. And there you will find on the bottom left, there's no contact information because you have to get back to Eva to get whatever questions answered. But at least there, as you scroll down, you'll see a few videos and then some testimonials. And on the left, you'll see the scientific studies button. All 90 of them will be available there. And another button that says patents. All 120 patents are there for you to review. Those are the global patents that we have. Okay. And this doesn't really apply to you guys because you have Eva's number and she'll send you the to get started text. And for those of you who want to look at, and Eva can send you also, we have a 2-minute video on my YouTube channel, Love and Money Secrets TV. And it's a 2-minute, 5-second video. And below that is a playlist of videos that are 30 seconds to 33 minutes long. Some people want all of the information. Some people just want to watch a few of the videos. You can watch all, none, or any combination thereof, but at least you know that you have a place that you can go where you can get that information and that education, okay? And that's pretty much it. Eva, did you have any other questions or did you have any comments? Oh, you're okay. Sounds like your sound is not okay. Sounds good. Well, you guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for your time and your attention. Both Eva and I are both committed to helping you with this process. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can ask Eva for my number. You can text me directly. Once you get started on the patches, then we can add you to, we have a Telegram group where Dr. Stacy and myself, we answer questions and so forth. You'll have access to the testimonials. You'll have access to all the different resources, the daily Zooms that we do that you can invite people to, where it's a Zoom like this, either myself or Dr. Stacy does them, and you can get your questions answered. And then we also do, like I said, patch placement Zooms with you. 3 times a day, I do a 12, a 2, and a 7 p.m. Zoom, California time. And then you can get, as soon as you receive your patches, you just call Eva or you call myself, and we'll do patch placement with you to tell you where you need to put your patches to optimize your results. And then we also have a Facebook group for those who prefer to be on Facebook. So we have plenty of resources. It's not like you're in the dark. So we're very much a hands-on, very interested in seeing your progress and getting you the results as quickly as possible. Okay. All righty. So I'm going to end the recording. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in, and turning on. And in the meanwhile, also think of who you might know that might be interested or who can benefit from this life-saving technology, and you can help them get relief from pain and unring the bell of damage in their body. Okay. All right. Ciao for now.